Hey guys, it's Princess. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be checking out Religion and There Is No God. This is George Carlin. You are all diseased. So I'm super excited to get into this. If you know me, you know how much I love George Carlin. So let's go.
Because I got to tell you the truth, folks. I got to tell you the truth. When it comes to bullshit, big time, major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion. No contest. No contest. Religion easily has the greatest bullshit story ever told. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you.
That is so real. And I was debating with someone about this the other day. I was saying that when it comes to humans and how the human brain works, most people need to see repeated things over time. Like they need to experience it and like see things repeatedly over time in order to form like a solidified belief, right? Because that's just how our brain works, right? So for example, if there's a chair here and I'm gonna convince you that there's a chair, you probably need to touch the chair, feel the chair, like have other people confirm that is a chair. And that's how we all develop this like collective agreement that this is a chair or a sofa or however you would want to put it, right? Whereas we don't do that when it comes to religion, because religion relies on blind faith, right? And let's say, for example, believing in God is, like something that everyone should do. The belief is so high stakes that we need some sort of like concrete experience or evidence in order to actually fully believe it. Because why is a belief high stakes? Because the consequence of not believing in God is hell. The consequence of not believing that Jesus Christ came and resurrected and died on the cross for your sins is not just, a social consequence, like people might not talk to you. It's a metaphysical consequence in the sense that you're going to hell, which is so serious. And so Christians expect people to be so, have such low expectations when you're expected to believe in something that has such serious consequences, right?
He loves you and he needs money. He always needs money. He's all powerful, all perfect, all knowing, and all wise. Somehow, just can't handle money. Religion takes in billions of dollars. They pay no taxes, and they always need a little more. Now, you talk about a good bullshit story. Holy shit. Thank you. But, thank you. Thank you very much. But I want you to know something. This is sincere. I want you to know, when it comes to believing in God, I really tried. I really tried. I tried to believe that there is a God who created each of us in his own image and likeness, loves us very much, and keeps a close eye on things. I really tried to believe that, but I gotta tell you, the longer you live, the more you look around, the more you realize something is fucked up. Something is wrong here. War, disease, death, destruction, hunger, filth, poverty, torture, crime, corruption, and the ice-capades. Something is definitely wrong. This is not good work. If this is the best God can do, I am not impressed. Results like these do not belong on the resume of a supreme being. This is the kind of shit you'd expect from an office temp with a bad attitude. And just between you and me, in any decently run universe, this guy would have been out on his all-powerful ass a long time ago. And by the way, I say this guy because I firmly believe, looking at these results, that if there is a God, it has to be a man. No woman could or would ever fuck things up like this. If there is a God, if there is, I think most reasonable people might agree that he's at least incompetent and maybe, just maybe, doesn't give a shit. Doesn't give a shit, which I admire in a person and which would explain a lot of these bad results. So rather than be just another mindless religious robot, mindlessly and aimlessly and blindly believing that all of this is in the hands of some spooky, incompetent father figure who doesn't give a shit, I decided to look around for something else to worship, something I could really count on. And immediately, I thought of the sun. Happened like that. Overnight, I became a sun worshiper. Well, not overnight, you can't see the sun at night. But first thing the next morning, I became a sun worshiper. Several reasons. First of all, I can see the sun, okay? Yeah. Unlike some other gods I could make.
I see what he did there. It's so crazy as well that George was saying all this stuff like in the 1990s. And like, it's only now that people are really starting to wake up to a lot of these truths. A lot of people are really starting to question religion, like question what we've been taught to believe, whether or not there's any like reliability in it. And I'm not saying that religion or God cannot be helpful for some people, but I think the way in which it's practiced, especially in the modern day, especially in a lot of like Western societies, is a lot of people use religion in order to control, or they use religion as an explanation for not developing a strong internal world or not developing their own worldview. You know, if you ask someone something and they don't know, they can just say, oh, well, I'll just give it to God. Just say you don't know. Just say you don't understand. That's actually something that really irks me. Like when you ask someone a question and they'll be like, they want to like over intellectualize and explain it and like give you a scripture that explains something that you just asked. It's like, it's okay to say that you don't know. It's okay to say, actually, I'm not sure. It's okay to acknowledge that the human experience is all about uncertainty. Like part of being a human is there's so much uncertainty. There's a lot of things that we can't control. There's a lot of things that we don't know. But I think a lot of people use religion and Christianity and so many different religions as something that can give them certainty, something that can give them a sense of grounding in this world that can be very uncertain. Things happen to you all the time. And so a lot of people use like, oh, well, I'm a Christian because, you know, I know God's got me. I know God's not going to let me suffer. But you have suffered. God lets everyone suffer, right? Like, yeah.
I can actually see the sun. I can see the sun, okay? Yeah. Unlike some other gods I could mention, I can actually see the sun. I'm big on that. If I can see something, I don't know, kind of helps the credibility along, you know? So every day I can see the sun as it gives me everything I need: heat, light, food, flowers in the park, reflections on the lake, an occasional skin cancer, but hey, at least there are no crucifixions, and we're not setting people on fire simply because they don't agree with us. Sun worship is fairly simple. There's no mystery, no miracles, no pageantry, no one asks for money, there are no songs to learn, and we don't have a special building where we all gather once a week to compare clothing. And the best thing about the sun, it never tells me I'm unworthy. Doesn't tell me I'm a bad person who needs to be saved. Hasn't said an unkind word. Treats me fine. So I worship the sun. But I don't pray to the sun. Know why? I wouldn't presume on our friendship. It's not polite. I've often thought people treat God rather rudely, don't you? Asking trillions and trillions of prayers every day, asking and pleading and begging for favors. Do this, give me that, I need a new car, I want a better job. And most of this praying takes place on Sunday, his day off. It's not nice, and it's no way to treat a friend. But people do pray, and they pray for a lot of different things. You know, your sister needs an operation on her crotch. Your brother was arrested for defecating in a mall. But most of all, you'd really like to fuck that hot little redhead down at the convenience store. You know, the one with the eye patch and the club foot, huh? Can you pray for that? I think you'd have to. And I say, fine, pray for anything you want. Pray for anything. But what about the divine plan? Remember that? The divine plan. Long time ago, God made a divine plan, gave it a lot of thought, decided it was a good plan, put it into practice. And for billions and billions of years, the divine plan has been doing just fine. Now you come along and pray for something. Well, suppose the thing you want isn't in God's divine plan. What do you want him to do? Change his plan? Just for you? Doesn't it seem a little arrogant? It's a divine plan. What's the use of being God if every rundown schmuck with a $2 prayer book can come along and fuck up your plan? And here's something else, another problem you might have. Suppose your prayers aren't answered. What do you say? Well, it's God's will.
Yeah.
Thy will be done. Fine, but if it's God's will and he's going to do what he wants to anyway, why the fuck bother praying in the first place? Seems like a big waste of time to me. Couldn't you just skip the praying part and go right to his will? It's all very confusing. So to get around a lot of this, I decided to worship the sun. But as I said, I don't pray to the sun. You know who I pray to? Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci. 2 reasons. First of all, I think he's a good actor, okay? To me, that counts. Second, he looks like a guy who can get things done. Joe Pesci doesn't fuck around. Doesn't fuck around. In fact, Joe Pesci came through on a couple of things that God was having trouble with. For years, I asked God to do something about my noisy neighbor with the barking dog. Joe Pesci straightened that cocksucker out with 1 visit. It's amazing what you can accomplish with a simple baseball bat. So I've been praying to Joe for about a year now. And I noticed something. I noticed that all the prayers I used to offer to God and all the prayers I now offer to Joe Pesci are being answered at about the same 50% rate. Half the time I get what I want, half the time I don't. Same as God, 50-50. Same as the 4-leaf clover and the horseshoe, the wishing well and the rabbit's foot. Same as the mojo man. Same as the voodoo lady who tells you your fortune by squeezing the goat's testicles. It's all the same, 50-50. So just pick your superstition, sit back, make a wish, and enjoy yourself. And for those of you who look to the Bible for moral lessons and literary qualities, I might suggest a couple of other stories for you. You might want to look at The 3 Little Pigs. That's a good one. Has a nice, happy ending. I'm sure you'll like that. Then there's Little Red Riding Hood, although it does have that X-rated part where the big bad wolf actually eats the grandmother, which I didn't care for, by the way. And finally, I've often always drawn a great deal of moral comfort from Humpty Dumpty. The part I like the best, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. That's because there is no Humpty Dumpty and there is no God. None, not one, no God, never was. In fact, I'm gonna put it this way. If there is a God, may he strike this audience dead. See, nothing happened. Nothing happened. Everybody's okay. All right? Tell you what. I'll raise the stakes. I'll raise the stakes a little bit. If there is a God, may he strike me dead. See? Nothing happened. Oh, wait. Got a little cramp in my leg. And my balls hurt. Plus, I'm blind. Oh, now I'm okay again. Must have been Joe Pesci, huh? God bless Joe Pesci. Thank you all very much. Joe bless you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, that always happens. George Carlin was ahead of his time. George Carlin really was ahead of his time. The fact that he's able to really critique religion in a way that's actually enjoyable and funny is something that I really enjoy. I've always been a major George Carlin fan, and I mean, it's really hard to disagree with what he's saying because he's raising very valuable critiques. And, you know, the way I see it is like, if you believe in God, believe in God, but like don't try and enforce your beliefs onto other people. I remember when I was in the church, you know, it was one of those things where like you had to go and evangelize and you had to stop people in the street and like tell them the word of God and stuff like that. Even when they clearly look like they don't want to be bothered, they clearly have headphones on, they clearly don't want to have this conversation. Yeah, you know, you're seen as a bad Christian if you're not doing that, right? As much as Christians like to say, you know, it's about my own personal relationship with God, a lot of how Christians behave and move through the world is influenced by other Christians or by what other people think a Christian is supposed to be like and act, right? I mean, you're not going to be considered as a good Christian if you have more than one abortion, for example, or if you go out on the weekend and you drink sometimes, or if you go to clubs, people might look at you and be like, you can't be a good Christian. Because as much as people like to say they don't judge, Christians are probably some of the most judgmental people that exist, right? The most judgy people I've met are Christians, and they'll say, it's love, but love is allowing someone to be autonomous and free. Love is allowing someone to explore things for themselves and come to conclusions on their own. Love is allowing people to reach their own conclusions for themselves, not inflicting your own beliefs. Like, I have my own beliefs, I don't inflict them onto other people. And some people look at me and be like, oh, okay, well, Princess, you're a narcissist if you trust in yourself. God forbid a girl has self-trust. God forbid I encourage other people to trust their own decisions, to trust their own ability to see the world accurately, to trust their own emotional truth. I mean, this is part of the reason why I developed a whole guide. If you guys want to check that out, link in the description. But I realized just how much people are outsourcing their worth to God, to a relationship, to their job, to so many other things outside of them, instead of trusting yourself, trusting your own ability to make decisions. We live in a world where there's so many distractions, including, you're not doing this right, you're supposed to be a woman this way, this is how women are supposed to act, this is how a Proverbs 31 woman is supposed to carry herself. But at the end of the day, everyone is different. Everyone has their own interests. I'm not going to fit into a box of being a good Christian woman just because society told me to. But guys, I could talk about this for ages. And if you guys want to know more about what I think, I'd say follow me on TikTok, because I go into a lot of my views on there. Follow me on Instagram. Join my Patreon. It helps me a lot. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.